Hey, what's up guys? Welcome to the What's in My Bag / office tour of 2019. Last year I was in my office upstairs. That's about 150 square feet and I ran out of room, so we came downstairs to the basement. This is about 300 square feet and I'm already running out of room here, and so we're actually building an office space right now that I'm moving into in just a few weeks. That's about 1,600 square feet, so I'm super stoked to get in there. But in the meantime, we are jam-packed down here in my basement. We're gonna be walking through every piece of gear I own, showing you what I use, what I recommend, what I don't recommend, and just FYI, I know I'm gonna get some of you guys complaining, saying, of course you can shoot professional videos when you have that much gear. I need you guys to realize that this is 7 years worth of accumulating gears. I've shot hundreds of videos in that time and I've slowly upgraded the gear little by little. And I'm gonna cut to right now, one of the very first shots that I ever took on my used T3i on a DIY slider made out of PVC pipe. I've been there, I know where you're at. Just know that you can get to this kind of gear wealth, but it does take time, it does take a lot of work, and I have worked my butt off, so please spare me the comments of saying that I'm just some rich dude who was given money by his parents. But anyway, so let's now walk you through. Let's start over here. Let's actually start over here with our stabilizers. This is my stabilizer corner. You see that I've accumulated quite a few. I have 4 glide cams, a fly cam, and some 3-axis gimbals. My very first glide cam was the HD2000. Then I also got a glide cam HD4000. And then I also got the glide cam Devon Graham series. Mostly got it for the head, which I switched out because I like the gimbal on the HD series better, but I like the head better on the Devon Graham series. Since then, glide cam has come out with a perfect hybrid of the two, which is the one I use and recommend now, which is called the Glide Cam HD Pro. So these ones I really don't use anymore. This is my #1 tool that I use and recommend. I think this comes at around 500 bucks right now. Then you have the Flycam Red King, which I think is the best cheap version of the glide cam. It's not as good as the glide cam, as you've seen in a comparison video that I've done before. So you can check out that comparison to see how they stack up. This one does come in at about a third of the price, at around $200. Then back here you have the Zhiyun Crane 2, the Zhiyun Crane 3, and my favorite motorized gimbal, which is DJI's Ronin S. So the Ronin S, I think, just gives you the ultimate best shots from a gimbal. I still think it has a little ways to go to get to the point where the glide cam is at. I think the glide cam just gives you more natural looking shots overall. There are times when I like using the motorized gimbals over the glide cams, like for real estate, where I'm just getting perfectly locked in smooth shots. And as far as DJI versus Zhiyun and Moza and other gimbals, I think DJI does the best job at one-handed gimbals. But over here we have FreeFly Movi M5. This is a two-handed gimbal, and I think FreeFly has the best overall motor system, 3-axis gimbal motorized system on the market. This gets me the best, smoothest shots, even better than DJI, but it is a bigger pain to use, harder to set up, harder to lug around. You have to carry this stand. This is an older version. Their newer version has a stand built in, but these are gonna be a lot more expensive, a lot clunkier, a lot bigger. I'm hoping FreeFly comes out with a less clunky version of their system, because right now it's meant for bigger production sets and I'm more of a one-man crew, and so I just don't use this very often unless I'm hooking up my Red camera on there, which won't fit on something like a DJI Ronin S. This is the Tilta shoulder rig. This is pretty heavy duty. I think this is about $1,000 shoulder rig. I don't do a ton of handheld type shooting, but having a rig like this just allows you to have some counterbalance on the back here, which will then allow you to have really smooth, controlled handheld movements. And we have a little rack focus guy here that allows you to change focus without having to come up here and fiddle with the lens and make the camera shaky. So we have Jake's Cowboy Studio rig. This is like a $25 handheld rig that Jake's using right now that can strap up to here, keeps it nice and tight on you, and gives you a similar shoulder handheld type feel, but on a super low budget. And I have used this quite a bit actually, even more than the expensive guy, because it's so quick and easy. But that's it for the stabilizers. Moving on to this side, this is kind of my audio corner here. First, let's talk about lav mics. I'm currently wearing a lav mic. You see the pack here. This is the G4. I think it's for 600 bucks on Amazon. Then it's up through my shirt and you can just see the microphone right there. This is probably my favorite go-to lav mic, the one that I recommend most. I don't have one here with me, but other lav mics we've used are the Tascam DR10L, which doesn't actually hook up to a camera, but it's just its own microphone that you'd have to sync up in post, whereas this one goes on the camera. That way the audio is already synced up to the video as well. So this is the one I recommend and use the most, is the G4. I have an older version, the G3, and I have a different version from Sennheiser that I tried out. It's actually more expensive. I think it's about 900 bucks, and I can't even remember the exact name. I think it's the AVX system that I tried out, but the battery doesn't last as long, and it comes with kind of a small dinky battery instead of AAA batteries, so it doesn't last as long. Plus you have to recharge it instead of, I like just being able to use the AAA batteries that you can just pop in new ones. And a cheaper alternative is the PowerDY lav mic. This guy is only $25, I think, on Amazon. And it's actually pretty decent quality for that small of a price. And I have a full video showing how I use that in a short film. And most people wouldn't notice that it was on a cheap microphone. So it isn't wireless, meaning it has to be connected to the camera, or you could hook it up to your phone and then just keep your phone in your pocket and then sync it up later. So there are some options for kind of a wireless version, but point is, a good cheap option there. Now, as far as onboard mics, first of all, the Rode Mic VideoMic Pro Plus. This is the best onboard microphone, I think, out there in the market. By far the best one I've used. It actually turns on automatically when you turn on your camera, which is awesome because with these older versions, you have to manually turn on the switch here. And I can't tell you how many times that I've forgotten to turn on the switch and just didn't get any audio. So the new one I think is way worth getting over the older versions. An alternative to this is the Takstar SGC 598. This one I think goes for about $25 as well, and super cheap. Obviously, you know, you can tell that it's a cheaper build quality, but for the price, it gives you pretty decent audio. But again, it's not gonna be as good, and I'd recommend going with the Rode for on-camera audio. So those are my microphones there. Now, as far as here in the studio, microphones that I use for like podcasting or for, you know, doing tutorials and stuff, this is the cheapest guy I'd recommend getting. This is called the Blue Yeti. I think it goes for about 100 bucks. This gives you pretty awesome audio quality. Blue Yeti also makes a Snowball version, which I think is half the price of this guy. But anyway, bypass this guy, scratch it, don't get it. It's not nearly as good a quality as the Blue Yeti. This guy right here is the Shure SM7B. This is one of the nicest podcasting type microphones that you could buy, and this is the one that I use and recommend. And this is on a Rode desk arm here. I think these are 100 bucks, and I absolutely love these guys. It's nice just being able to put it at a camera, bring it in, you know, rotate it out and use a different mic if needed. I use this mic for all my tutorials like this, unless I have a bunch of stuff on the table, then I use my Rode NT-G3. That's what this mic is right here. And you can see that this is hooked up to the base of a blimp, which we'll go back over there and show you that in a second. And then here we have a boom pole that's holding it all up. And then right here is a funky little placeholder here that you put inside of your C-stand that holds the microphone in place. And then here we have our Kupo C-stand holding this all up. About 200 bucks for that whole setup. And then obviously an XLR cable that will plug into here, which will then go into an audio box like this. This is my Rode AI1 audio box. You need some kind of audio box like this to have the audio go from XLR to then plug into USB to go into the computer. So that is the audio setup here. Moving over to this setup for audio. Here we have the Rode NT1, same boom arm here, the Rode boom arm, and the Rode NT1 mic with windscreen. Comes all built into one package. This is the one that I use at my desk for different types of tutorials that have to do with editing and all that. This is also an awesome mic. And then here's just a little 3-foot XLR cable going into my Focusrite audio box. This one's a little bit nicer than the Rode one because it has 2 inputs that I plan on using this when we get into our new office for dual microphone recording 2 people at the same time, you know, podcast style things. And then we record all that straight into GarageBand on my computer there. Just a couple other things. We have an extra boom pole here. The boom poles that I use are the K-Tech Avalon KE79CC. These ones are awesome, but super light and great quality. And then, as I mentioned, we have a blimp and windscreen. These are amazing windscreens. You put the microphone inside here. Right in here you have a Deity S1, I think is what it's called. Super cheap microphone that actually gives you pretty good audio quality. But yeah, so you put the mic in there, put this over, and this thing's gonna withstand all types of wind, and it's not gonna make any of that fuzzy noise that you hear when the wind starts muffling your audio. So this is a dead cat that you put over top of it that just helps further get rid of that wind. So that combo does an awesome job. I've never had any wind issues. And then using those shotgun mics while you're outside, you obviously can't plug them directly into a computer. And so you'd have to bring with you a recorder like this. This one is the Zoom H6 recorder. It's super awesome. It does suck battery life like crazy though, so make sure you bring some extra batteries if you get one of these. And a great alternative to this for I think half the price, maybe not quite half, but less money is gonna be the H5. Zoom actually sent this to me saying, hey, tell your students about the H5. As far as audio quality goes, it's gonna give you pretty much identical audio quality. Biggest thing is you only have 2 inputs instead of 4. But to be honest, I've only ever used 1 or 2 inputs. Just know that there is a cheaper option out there in the Zoom H5 that's gonna give you equivalent results. And I think that's it for audio. We have one more little small microphone here. We'll put this up on the screen. I'm not sure exactly what this one's called, and I actually haven't even used it because I'm always using the nicer versions, but there's a cheaper option out there for smaller setups. Now, as far as in my office space, you can see down here we have kind of my charging station. This thing is awesome. We'll link to it as well, but it's just a big power strip that lines up. So I'm always charging stuff here. Here you see my red batteries being charged. Coming down here, we have some acoustic blankets. These guys are great for dampening sound. Let's say you're in a really echoey room. You can just put this up and that'll help dampen the room, dampen the echo and reverb. And then down here, we have some really cheap, maybe $10 stands for phones when we do like phone reviews and phone comparisons. We have 5 or 6 of these, so we can just stack all the phones together. So they're really crappy quality, but you know, just for doing comparisons, they get the job done. Down here, we have a bunch of other knickknacks. We have stuff like converters when I'm going out of the country. And here we have like an intervalometer for doing time lapses. So, you know, just some other odd and end things in there. Back here, I have some old hard drives. These are Seagate 8 terabyte hard drives that just have backed up footage on here. And then here we have a GoPro Hero 6, I believe. Haven't used the GoPro in a few years either. Just not shooting a lot of action cam type stuff these days, but I do recommend GoPro still over some of the other options out there. Other companies are starting to make some better products, but I still think GoPro has the upper hand. Let's come over here real quick to some of these knickknacks. Here is my Rhino slider. This is the 42-inch. I have a whole video showing, you know, different moves you can do with the slider. I don't use a slider a ton. It's a more specific tool. I love using it for like product shots or very slow moving controlled movements. Other than those, I'm usually using a glide cam. Here we have a smaller version. I think this is the 24-inch rails. And then right here we have 2 monopods. The first one I owned was a Manfrotto monopod. This is the MVM 500A. Actually do not like this and would not recommend getting this one. Wasn't a big fan. The fluid head that it comes with doesn't allow you to pan, which was kind of dumb. Picked up this guy instead a year later. This is the Sirui P424SR, and this one I actually really like. Not only is it a great monopod, and I use my 502 Manfrotto fluid head on this, but this guy can actually act as its own tripod. It's not going to be super sturdy, but it can hold up a camera on its own just sitting there as a monopod, so it's a little bit more versatile and higher quality. So that's the monopod I'd recommend getting if I were you. Coming over here to this corner, some knickknacks. We got the RAVPower iSmart Plus. This is just a battery that I bring along when I need to charge like my smartphone shoots. I'll bring this so I can just plug it in between, you know, driving to locations just to keep the phone charged up. So that's a nice little tool to bring on road trips. Here's my pillow for traveling. Very nice, very nice. We have some acoustic foam that will set up and when we get into the new office. We have a ton of this. We get it at a musician's friend or a guitar center. Good for kind of helping design the walls, plus dampens the sound, makes it a little bit less echoey, a little bit less reverby. And let's now talk about lighting. Over here you have the Aputure 300D with a light dome on it, and here we have another Aputure 300D. These guys are a beast, and this is a Fresnel 2K thing here that allows you to really shape the light, and they have some gels that you can screw in there that allow you to get different color combinations. Haven't used this guy a lot because I haven't had any shoots that have required that powerful of a light. Otherwise, I just use the Aputure LS Mini 20Cs. This is basically a small version of this, which allows you to really shape the light, and we'll show you how I'm using these in my other setups over there. Just a quick note on the 300Ds, I just came out with the Mark II that I'm keen on getting because the Mark Is, if you listen closely, you can hear that. I have a really loud fan, and if you're in a small room and trying to get audio, you're gonna be hearing that fan. It's almost like a low hum air conditioner. So that's the biggest drawback to the 300Ds, and the reason why I don't use them a ton is because they're bigger, clunkier, louder, heavier, and so I usually just stick to what you see me using over here, which is the original Aputure 120D with its light dome as well. And even better than this one, and the one that I recommend, is the Aputure 120D Mark II, which you'll see over here. And this is my favorite one. This one's quietest, it's the most reliable, it has the best handbrake that allows you to lock in the light in the position you want with it, whereas the older ones kind of have a hard time keeping the position the way you like it. So the Mark II is the one I'd get if you're gonna get an Aputure 120D or any kind of light from them. So here we have the LS Mini 20D. This has a little blue gel clipped on here, which is what lights up this background to give me a blue background. And here you have these little Westcott, I don't know what you call these, ball head majiggers that allow you to really shape exactly how you want, and then they lock into place. Love using those guys. And then on here we have a Westcott light stand. These are my favorite light stands, 50 bucks for these, and I have like 6 or 7 of these. Absolutely love and recommend those light stands. Kind of light though, so if you have heavier duty stuff, you want to get a actual C-stand like here. Right there you have some sandbags, put some weights in there. Over here we have my backlight that comes back here. Again, another LS Mini 20D, and again with the Westcott little head thing on a Kupo stand. And the reason I have it boomed out like this is so that this pole isn't getting in the shot. So another great thing about using C-stands is they have enough strength to be able to hold something out tight, but from a distance, so that you don't have to have a light stand in the back of your shot. And last lighting stuff back here, we have the Came TV tube lights. These are pretty expensive actually, I think $300-400 bucks per light. They sent me a bunch of them, and I've used them mostly as backlights, as I think they look really cool in the background. Half of them are daylight, half of them are RGB, which means they can become any color. And I actually have one set up right here in front of the camera as well that kind of acts as another key light next to this guy, which also gives it kind of a cool catch light in my eye and just kind of highlights my eyes a little bit better. So that's kind of a fun new spot that I put one of those. And then right here we have the Westcott 2x1 Cine RGB-W matte. This can be any color you want, but it can also be a great area light, a great key light. These are my favorite lights to use, are the Westcott Flex kits. I also own the 1x1s, and they just came out with the RGB 2x1. And this is now my favorite Westcott light that I use for on the road type stuff. And I think that's it for lighting. Let's come over here to my lens rack. We're using quite a few lenses throughout, so they're not all here, but here you have my 85mm lens Sigma, my 18-35 Sigma. These are all Sigma Arts, by the way. This is a Sigma 100 macro lens. This actually isn't mine, it's Jake's. I own the 100mm Canon macro lens. I rarely use those. I just recently used it for some product shots, but don't use those super often. Here we have the 70-200 Canon, and then here we have the Laowa 12mm for those super wide real estate type shots. And then as you'll see over there, we'll show you that we have the Sigma 20mm is one I use for most of my tutorials, so that's usually on the camera. And then we have a Sigma 50mm on the other camera. I do use those quite a bit. And then on this camera that you're seeing right now, this is the 16-35 Canon version 3. I own version 2 as well. It's sitting over there in a bag. And the version 3 is just a little bit sharper, but they're both great. And then I also own a 24-70, which I don't know where that's at. Oh, it's on my red camera, which we'll go to in a second. So yeah, those are my main go-to lenses. Love Sigma Arts as primes, and I love Canon's L-series glass for zoom lenses. And we also just picked up a 28-70mm 2.0 RF lens that was a $3,000 lens, my most expensive lens that we'll show you that's sitting on the Canon EOS R in just a minute. But that's it for my lenses. Now, as far as filters, let's talk about filters for just a second. My go-to filters are Polar Pro. Absolutely love what they're doing right now. I own quite a few. This one is a polarizer. I personally like polarizers over ND filters because I like how they cut out reflections and bring out vibrance and colors. So I own a Polar Pro 8-stop, 16-stop, and a 64-stop. You see all those that are here. The one I use the most is probably the 16-stop, as that one is the most versatile, but the 64-stop is going to allow you to use like a 1.4 lens lens in daylight. So they just have different purposes. We have a full video on when to use which filter, so make sure to watch that. And I used to use BW polarizers, but as I've seen in examples that I've shown in that video, the glass on the quartz line of the Polar Pro are just higher quality and they're not going to have as many lens flaring issues and whatnot. So they recently just came out with the Peter McKinnon variable ND, which is an awesome tool. It is going to give your footage a slight green tint, so just be aware of that. That's kind of one of the drawbacks to using variable ND filters, is they're going to have a little bit of a tint because it's not as controlled of glass because of how much coverage they're trying to give you. Polar Pro has two of these versions. One is a 2 to 5 stop and one is a 6 to 9 stop. I recommend and use most a 2 to 5 stop. That one's going to be the most versatile of the two of those variable NDs. All right, moving on over here to our phone station. On the topic of filters, we have Polar Pro phone filters. We're going to be doing some videos on this coming up here pretty soon. But these just allow you to slide filters onto your phone, allow you to keep that shutter speed low, make it look a little more cinematic. And then here's some moment lenses that I picked up. I got a wide angle moment lens, an anamorphic moment lens, and a telephoto moment lens. And in order to put them on, you have to have one of these cases that go on your phone. And so I've been playing around with them. We'll be coming out with some content soon on using these lenses. And then for stabilizers, the best phone stabilizer on the market right now is Freefly's Movi. This guy's $300, so it is a little bit expensive, but by far the best one I've used. I have used other ones like the Smooth Q, which is fine, but it's just not going to be nearly as smooth, not as customizable as what Freefly is doing. So I have two of the Freeflies, one that has all the counterweights ready to go. You can buy the counterweights as well on their site. These counterweights will offset putting on one of these big lenses. And so I have one set up for lenses and one set up just for the phone by itself. So yeah, that's the phone station here. And you guys know that I'm an iPhone user. I currently use and rock the iPhone XS Max, but I have done comparisons showing how it stacks up to other popular smartphones. I still think the iPhone is the best, but there are other great ones out there. Probably the best one for video right now is the Huawei P30 Pro, but obviously it's having some issues with being available in the US, so it's kind of not really an option for people here in the US. But moving on to our drone station, here we have all my bags and boxes for the drones, and then my go-to drone is the Phantom 4 Pro Plus with the built-in monitor on the controller. Love that setup. Second to that would be the Mavic 2 Pro. Pros and cons, I've done a whole video comparing those two. This one does 10-bit, which is awesome for color grading, but doesn't do as good in low light. And other drawbacks, but it is smaller, lighter, better for traveling. So pros and cons there, love them both. And then here's the Autel drone that I got to compare to the Mavic 2 Pro. To be honest, I have yet to fly it. I unboxed it, and that's as far as I've gotten with it, as I've had so much other gear that I'm trying to review and learn and give you guys feedback on. But yeah, so that's a great alternative. It is cheaper than DJI. Obviously DJI is kind of #1 in the drone industry right now, but it's awesome seeing companies like Autel bring in some competition and give us some other options as well. Okay, let's now talk about cameras. They're kind of scattered all over the place being used, so we haven't talked about them yet. The first one is the Sony a7 III. I don't currently have it with me. It's being lent out to my sister who started her own photography business, and I wasn't using it a lot. As you guys know, I'm not a big Sony user. I got it to do comparisons and to try out, but I just haven't integrated it as much as I wanted to. Here we have the 1DX Mark II. You guys know this is the main camera that I'm currently using. I'm stoked for the Mark III that is apparently coming out within a few months here, hopefully end of the year, beginning of 2020. And connected to this is the SmallHD 702. About $1,000 right now for that monitor. It's been a great monitor. Mostly use it just so I can see myself while I'm filming myself. Here we have the Pad Prompter Pro, and that allows me to read all my scripts. So I love using this. And then sitting, all of this is on a Manfrotto tripod. The exact model being the 536 M Pro legs, and it's all sitting on the 504 HD head. This is a great tripod. I really like it. Only problem is the legs are kind of janky. They're kind of hard to control. So this is a pretty expensive setup, and you're gonna get really smooth shots with this. But I actually like even more this tripod over here. We have another 1DX sitting over here with my 50mm Sigma, and this is all sitting on an FSB8 tripod. This is by Satchler, and this thing is freaking expensive. I think it's like $2,500, $3,000 for a tripod. But look how nice this is. Pop, 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 and then I can raise or lower all the legs at the exact same time. Pop, 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 and we're in place. Whereas with other tripods, you have to manually one by one adjust each leg. And so this thing is just awesome for setting up real quickly, and it's super light as well. So this is my favorite tripod that I've used, but you're obviously gonna pay a big price. So I recommend using Manfrotto unless you want something super hefty and awesome like this guy. It's gonna cost you. Coming over here to our last couple cameras. This is the 6D Mark II. I did a full review on this. This used to be my recommendation for entering into the full frame series with Canon. However, since then, also here's the 24-105 lens that I also own on there. But since then, they've come out with the EOS R, which I think is the best option for entering full frame on Canon. This is a $2,000 camera. Doesn't do 4K very well. It does it at a 1.74 crop, which is the biggest complaint about the EOS R. But then on here is the Mongo 28-70 millimeter lens. This thing is insane. It's a 2.0 lens all the way through. I've been taking photographs with it, portraits, and I just absolutely love it. So I'm stoked to use this more and more. Then on here you have the Atomos Ninja 5 or Ninja V, and this guy allows me to record 10-bit externally, which goes into a separate card that you have to buy that's actually pretty expensive, and I actually haven't tested that out yet. And then here we have obviously my Red Dragon. This is for more cinematic, high-end commercial type stuff that I shoot with this guy. Obviously it's bigger, clunkier, much higher resolution, much higher quality. Terrible battery life, not very good in low light, louder fans. Obviously great pros, but obviously great cons as well to this. So that's it for the camera stuff. A couple other things, knick-knack gadgets. We got the Rugged CF card holders or SD card holders in here. I think these are way better than like the Velcro crap that you have to unfold like a wallet. Like, I mean, look at that. It's way more rugged. It's in the name. Rugged. You can see there you have all my cards, and I do recommend SanDisk. I think they're the best brand to use, most reliable. I've never had a single issue. People always talk about, oh, you gotta have 2 cards, you gotta back it up. It's like, well, if you have good cards, they should never go bad. For me, I've filmed 500 videos and I've never had a single card go bad. So just buy nice cards, guys, and you shouldn't have to have 2 cards running all the time. Got another one here with some SD cards and CFast cards. Over here, we got some hard drives. I used to use WD My Passports. Here's the newer versions of those. I still use them from time to time. They're cheap, but they are spinning hard drive disks, and these are the guys I'm using now, which are SanDisk SSD drives, which means there's nothing spinning in them. You can drop them, you can throw them around. They're not gonna get ruined. They're not gonna break. They're not gonna cause any problems, and they're gonna be a lot faster for transferring data and for editing off of. So these are the guys I take on the road. For dumping footage, I have a Lexar USB 3.0, which has like your CFast, your SD, all that. And then for transferring CFast 2.0 cards, I have this awesome Ego disc that allows you to dump 2 at the same time. This one's actually pretty expensive, but it also has the cable built in, so you don't have to worry about losing that and forgetting to bring that and all that. So right here we got headphones. These are, I don't know the exact model, HD 650s. These are headphones used for sound designing, so I honestly don't use them very much. I should use them more. But you see back here we have the KRK Rocket 8s. That's what I use mostly for listening back to my audio to make sure that it's mixed well and all that. But it's recommended that you also edit with headphones. Do both for reference so you can hear a little bit more clarity when you have it cupped in audio like that. Right here we have, Sony just came out with new headphones for noise canceling. Up till now, I'd say Bose has the best noise canceling headphones. I use their headphones for years now, but when I saw these come out, everyone was saying that they're just as good, if not better, and I got them, and I do think they are better. So these are my new go-to headphones. Here we're sitting on an Uplift desk. This is, I think, $1,000 to $1,500 for one of these desks. They are super expensive, but they do allow you to stand. Here we have the LG widescreen. Love this guy. It's, I think, about $1,000 as well, but this is the main screen that I edit on. And then up here we have obviously the iMac Pro, $13,000 iMac Pro, which is honestly giving me a lot of problems, lots of bugs and issues. Probably at this current moment recommend just a basic iMac versus the iMac Pro because of all the bugs I've dealt with. Sometimes with the newest, latest, greatest tech, you just come with bugs that you have to deal with. But overall, it's been a speed machine and done awesome. G-Tech, this is my main hard drive that is actually attached into my desk here so that when I lift it up, it just comes with me. but this guy's a 96 terabyte. I've had it for a couple years and it'll probably last me for a couple years more before I have to get another one. And they actually just came out with an SSD series that's way more expensive that I'll probably eventually get, which is gonna allow me to edit faster and isn't gonna have anything spinning, so it should be higher reliability as well. Love G-Tech. I think they have the best drives out there on the market, so they're who I use. These are acoustic foam panels, about $200 a piece. The fact that they're mobile and that you can just haul them around, this just dampens the sound, makes it more acoustic friendly to reduce some of that echo and reverb that you would hear in a big, large room. So, and then here, of course, we have the MacBook Pro. This is the newest version. I've owned 4 or 5 different versions, and I actually don't like this newest version that much. These stupid touch bars are so annoying in so many ways. In fact, you know what? I really don't like the touch bar. No, I'm just kidding. That's an old one that stopped working years ago. Then here you have the Cam Link. This is what I use for streaming. This Cam Link is what connects your camera to your computer. Of course, you have to use a dongle if you're on a new Mac because heaven forbid they give you anything that doesn't require a dongle. A couple more things over here. My Ape case, and the Ape case I recommend getting is the one that has wheels on it. So that way you can wheel it in the airport and just haul it around this way, not have to ruin your back. That was a lifesaver, is getting a camera bag that had wheels on it. So I highly recommend getting one that has wheels, and that can also just be used as a regular backpack. So this is my favorite bag, camera bag out there. Jacob, he brought his here. This is a Pelican case. Pelican Air 1535. Jake says he likes it. I think it's terrible. No, just kidding. It's awesome. It's gonna be a lot more durable, rugged. You could check it in on a plane, not have to carry it with you. Although I'd still recommend carrying it on with you if you're having a lot of fragile stuff in there. Pelican cases are probably your most standard version of carrying camera gear, and you see here he has it partitioned all nicely to fit his 3 1DXs and all his lenses and all that. So these are super nice as well. We got the Joby tripod. I actually don't use this a lot. I take it with me on the road. But yeah, so that's pretty much it for my office, for the gear in my office, for the gear in my bag. Again, I've been collecting gear again for 7 years now. I only recommend buying gear when you need it. And so generally I don't buy, so even if I want it and I have gear envy, I don't buy anything until I feel like, okay, I have a purpose for it. There's a reason why I would use this and I could get a return on my investment if I bought it. So that's pretty much it, guys, for what's in my bag. Hopefully that gives you some insights on things that you could buy that could help your productions, or things to avoid buying that would allow you to save some money. Again, we're gonna be moving into an office space in just a couple weeks here. So this is all gonna be torn down and repurposed and re-put into our new office space. Everybody starts somewhere. Don't be ashamed of where you're currently at, what the gear you're currently using, but I would set goals for gear you want to use and reasons why you'd want to use them, and then just get out and shoot like crazy until you've earned enough money to upgrade that gear, and then hopefully allow you to use that nicer gear to up your production value even more. I emphasize this all the time, but it's not about the gear, guys, but it's about the skills behind the gear. So as good as all this gear is, I am always trying to prove in all of my videos that with any of this gear, cheap or expensive, you can get great results if you know how to use it. So take the time to learn how to use whatever you have to its fullest potential. And if and when the opportunity arises where you need to upgrade, go ahead and do that. But in the meantime, optimize what you already have. But that's it, guys. If you have any further questions, please let me know.